John Carter, a once renowned name in the construction industry, sat on a cold concrete sidewalk, his back against the unforgiving wall of a building he once aspired to construct. The irony of his current situation wasn't lost on him. Just a few years ago, John was at the helm of Carter Constructions, a thriving business known for its state-of-the-art buildings and innovative architectural designs. His rise in the industry was meteoric, fueled by ambition, hard work, and a talent for sensing lucrative opportunities. John's life was a whirlwind of business meetings, construction sites, and high-profile networking events. He lived in a luxurious penthouse overlooking the city he was helping to shape. Surrounded by wealth and success, John felt invincible, confident in his ability to weather any storm. But the world of construction is as unstable as it is lucrative. The downfall began with a series of unfortunate investments, followed by an economic downturn that hit the real estate market hard. John's empire, built on concrete and steel, started to show cracks as financial pressures mounted. The introduction sets the stage for John's dramatic fall from a successful businessman to a life on the streets. It outlines his previous status and the initial causes of his downfall, establishing a backdrop for the story of loss and resilience. As John's business crumbled, so did his personal life. Investors pulled out, contracts were cancelled, and debts began to pile up. His once loyal network of associates and friends slowly drifted away, unwilling to be associated with failure. John fought desperately to keep his company afloat, pouring his personal savings into what he believed was just a rough patch. However, the situation only worsened. Legal battles over breached contracts and unpaid loans consumed his days. The stress took a toll on his health and mental well-being. The penthouse, luxury cars, and expensive lifestyle all were gradually lost to bankruptcy proceedings and asset liquidation. John's family, who had always seen him as the pillar of strength and stability, were equally affected. His marriage, unable to withstand the pressures and lifestyle changes, fell apart. John found himself alienated from his children, who couldn't understand the rapid downward spiral of their family's fortunes. Eventually, John was left with nothing but the clothes on his back and a few personal belongings. The streets became his home, a stark contrast to the life he had known. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, as he struggled to come to terms with his new reality. The bustling city around him, which he once helped build, now seemed indifferent to his plight. In this development section, the narrative delves into the details of John's decline. It explores the impact of his business's failure on his personal life and relationships, painting a picture of a man struggling to cope with a complete reversal of fortune. One chilly autumn evening, as John settled in for the night in an alley he now called home, he experienced a moment of profound clarity. Surrounded by the discarded remnants of the city, he realized that his identity had been too closely tied to his wealth and success. Now stripped of all material possessions, he was forced to confront who he truly was beneath the veneer of a successful businessman. This moment of introspection was interrupted by the approach of a young couple. They stopped, seeing John huddled against the wall. Expecting them to pass by, John was surprised when they offered him a warm meal and a blanket. This simple act of kindness from strangers was a stark contrast to the abandonment he had experienced from those he once considered close. The encounter sparked something within John. For so long, he had been consumed by his losses and the unfairness of his situation. But this small gesture reminded him that compassion and humanity still existed. It made him question what he had given back to the world when he had everything at his disposal. Lying awake that night, John realized that his downfall was not just the result of economic misfortune, but also a consequence of his own actions and choices. He had been so focused on building his empire that he had neglected the more important foundations of life: relationships, compassion, and humility. In the days that followed, John began to take small steps towards rebuilding his life, but not in the way he had before. He started volunteering at a local shelter, using his skills and knowledge in construction to help with the repairs. This work, though far from the glamour of his past projects, gave him a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt in a long time. John also began to reconnect with his estranged family. These encounters were difficult at first. A mix of guilt, shame, and regret hung heavily in the air. However, with time, these meetings became more about healing and understanding. His children, seeing the change in their father, slowly started to open up, bridging the gap that had formed. While John's life on the streets continued, his perspective on his situation changed. He no longer saw himself as a victim of circumstance, but as someone who had a chance to start over and do things differently. He found solace in the small community of people he met on the streets, realizing that everyone has a story, and judgment often comes too easily. His evenings were no longer filled with regret, but with planning and hope. He began saving a little money from odd jobs, dreaming of one day running a small business again, this time with a focus not just on profit, but on community and sustainability. John's story, once defined by towering achievements and catastrophic failures, had taken an unexpected turn. The streets, which had been a symbol of his downfall, became the backdrop of his redemption. He learned the value of humility, the importance of community, and the strength that lies in resilience. Though John's days of leading a major construction company were over, his new life had a different kind of richness. He found joy in simple pleasures, a conversation with a fellow volunteer, the satisfaction of a job well done at the shelter, and the rebuilding of relationships with his family. The city that once represented his professional playground now held a different meaning. It was a place of endless stories, including his own, each weaving into the tapestry of the urban landscape. John's journey through hardship had stripped him of material wealth, but had given him a wealth of experience and understanding. Years later, John managed to save enough to start a small business focused on community projects. It was modest compared to his previous empire, but it was more fulfilling. He often shared his story, not as a tale of loss, but as a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome and find new purpose. John Carter's fall from a high-rise penthouse to the streets was a harsh lesson in life's unpredictability. Yet, in losing everything, he found something greater, a purpose driven by empathy and a life rich with meaning and connection.